Welcome back to A Hill with a View. My name is Moshe Hill. Great to be back here this week. We are talking about New York and how unaffordable it's going to be, how affordable it already is, how it's going to get even worse. All the policies that are being proposed in New York City and in Albany are just horrific. They're only making things worse over and over and over again because they do not know how to quit. They don't know how to stop. But before we get to that, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Send to a friend. That's how we grow the channel. So please make sure to do that. Okay, so first things first, you got Zohran Mamdani made an announcement. He has to delay the budget. The budget is coming in, and he cannot put out a New York City budget because they literally can't reconcile it. When you put out a budget, the revenues have to match the expenses. They literally can't do that because they have so much spending that they've been doing for so many years. Now, I'm going to play the clip of what he did. A lot of people are dunking on Mamdani, and he deserves to be dunked on. He went into the campaign, he campaigned on free stuff. That's all he did. He campaigned on free stuff because he's a socialist. Free buses, free healthcare, free pre-K through cradle to grave, everything, free food, free groceries, all that stuff. He campaigned on it. He's a socialist. That's what they do. They campaign on it. Then he actually had to look at the budget, and he is fiscally required to put in a balanced budget. He can't do that. So instead of saying, you know what, all that free stuff, can't do it, I can't be fiscally responsible, he's placing the blame on New York State. He's blaming them on Albany. They're not giving him enough money. He's placing the blame on the wealthy. He's saying that, all the working people, the workers of the world unite people who voted for me, who didn't really vote for him. The people who voted for him were the, I'll get into who voted for him and who is paying for that. But all those people, they're not to blame. We can't really raise taxes on them, except for they absolutely are going to raise taxes on them. He is claiming that these taxes, that he's going to have to either massively increase revenue. And when he says revenue, he means taxing the bejesus out of New Yorkers. All right? So, by the way, if you haven't figured out an escape plan for New York, figure it out now, okay? Because you got to get out of there. It's too nuts. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to give a little bit more context to Mamdani, because Mamdani's complaints about what's been going on in New York, he's trying to lay it all on the feet of Eric Adams, but that's not true. It's not Eric Adams' fault. So first, let's watch the clip and what Mamdani was talking about here.
New York City faces a budget crisis of a historic magnitude. We inherited a deficit larger than any since the Great Recession. Years of mismanagement and chronic underbudgeting, alongside a structural imbalance between what New York City sends to the state and what we receive in return, have taken a toll. We cannot close this deficit with savings alone. We need new revenue, and we need a structural reset in our relationship with the state. That is the only way to meet our legal obligation to pass a balanced budget.
I love that. A structural reset with the state, of what he needs with the state. He's begging for money, and Hochul's going to give it to him because he is Hochul's ally. But he's begging for money and blaming the state. Oh, we send much more money. You don't send anything. You send nothing. It's the people who live in New York City also have to pay state taxes. And so wealthy people live in New York City, and then they pay taxes to the state. And sales taxes, people buy things in New York City, and those taxes go to the state. You don't send them anything. Let's just put that out there.
And to do so without imposing a financial burden onto the backs of working people. I'm glad to partner with Speaker Menon as we call upon Albany and deliver a balanced budget. Together, we are extending the executive budget deadline from this coming Friday until May 12th, because a crisis of this scale cannot be solved without state action. I want to be clear. We are not simply asking others to act. New York City is doing our part. We are committed to governing with the fiscal responsibility this moment demands.
Okay. The fiscal responsibility, the idea of a socialist saying the words fiscal responsibility is hilarious, and doing our part. Doing our part to pass our own budget. We are willing to do our part to pass our own budget. Oh, that's big of you.
Speaker Menon and I have already identified meaningful savings, and we will continue that work carefully, deliberately, and without cutting the services that New Yorkers rely on. But we cannot do it alone. That is why we are standing together this morning to underscore what is at stake and to call on Albany to deliver additional revenue.
So, deliver additional revenue. I hate these ridiculous claims. Like the way that they phrase this. Sorry about that. The way that they phrase this, deliver additional revenue. This is all taxpayer money. A government doesn't earn anything. They take taxpayer money. And all they can have to do is balance their own budgets. But they can't do that. And the reason they can't do that is what Mamdani actually mentioned this. And I got to say, I agreed with him. We had 8 years of Bill de Blasio. And that actually... So he's going to blame it all on Eric Adams because Eric Adams was not a socialist nutbag. But Bill de Blasio was a socialist nutbag, and Bill de Blasio actually was Mamdani's favorite New York City mayor. When he was asked about this in the debate stage, he said, "Who's your favorite New York City mayor?" And Mamdani said, "Bill de Blasio." So Bill de Blasio came into... And by the way, Bill de Blasio made terrible decisions based on what happened with Bloomberg before him. Like, this has all been piling one on top of another, on top of another, on top of another. Like, we have not had a good mayor in New York City in a very, very long time. Since at least Giuliani. I mean, Bloomberg tried to do this thing, but nobody was really fiscally responsible because even to pass the budget, you still have to go through the Democrat city council. So even if you had a Republican in the mayor's office, you couldn't really do that much anyway. But here's the issue. Bill de Blasio came into office with 152 city unions, all 152 city unions, which were covering 300,000 to 337,000 workers, were working without active contracts. So we had a major issue with the unions. Okay, the unions are controlling New York. They control a lot of blue cities and blue states. That's how unions operate. They take money from their members, they send it over to Democrat politicians. Bloomberg was not willing to negotiate with the union, so he let the contracts expire. When the contracts expired, then the unions got their guy, Bill de Blasio, in as mayor. And what does Bill de Blasio say? I'm going to take care of all your contracts. And that's what he did. He signed a lot of deals with a lot of unions. Massive wage increases, the retroactive raises going back from 5 years before, bonuses, huge contracts, huge increase in healthcare costs, huge increase in everything, and that caused massive workforce expansion. So now you have more people who are joining the labor unions because the contract became so good. The contracts got so good with the city that the that there was massive workforce expansion. So big examples that I saw when I was researching this: United Federation of Teachers. They had a landmark 9-year deal, retroactive to 2009 through 2018, costing $5.5 billion. Included retroactive 4% raises from 5 years before, $1,000 ratification bonus for each teacher. There's 100,000 teachers. Forward raising total 10 to 18% over the period. Career ladder bonuses for top teachers, some evaluation reform elements. Municipal unions, 100 to 150,000 workers, multiple deals. Uniform services, police officers, fire, sanitation, correction, big deals with them. I mean, all these things happen. I mean, we got budget watchdogs like Citizen Budget Commission, Empire Center. They all made the claim that it drove up long-term costs, retroactive pay, workforce growth. That is huge budget expansion during that time. During his time, it went from $78 billion budget during de Blasio's time to $100 billion budget. So you're talking about a house of cards that's being built. So they're building all this stuff up with all this massive spending over the course of many, many years. So then you have the unions are one issue. Another issue is nonprofits and NGOs. New York City, 15% of the city's budget goes to nonprofits and NGOs. So not only are there over 500,000 workers working directly for the city, but hundreds of thousands of more workers are working for NGOs and nonprofits that are being funded by the city. So basically, the city operates on two levels of employees. You got the financial guys, and you have people who work for the city. And then I guess there's a third level of like everyone who works like for bodegas and small businesses. Like, that's what the city's being made up of. Businesses are fleeing from there as quickly as they can. They're trying to get out of there because they can't handle the tax anymore, and they're going to tax-friendly areas. They can go to, even Nassau County is right next door. That's more tax-friendly than New York City. You don't even need to go that far. People are going to Florida. People are going to different places. North Carolina, Texas. A lot of businesses are leaving. So, and they're not doing anything to help the businesses that want to be there. So last week, we talked about this last week, where Amazon is going to have to leave because they're trying to unionize the delivery drivers that Amazon contracts with, the last mile delivery drivers. And so they're trying to basically make it so those people can't operate. Those are small businesses that operate inside of New York City with owners. People are hiring drivers. They're getting rid of them. They don't want them there. So we have major issues with that. So the city is going to go back out there. They're going to extend it by another 10 days. I don't know what they're going to figure out the next 10 days. But that's not all. That is not all, because that's New York City. I don't live in New York City. All right? I live in Nassau County, which is part of New York State. And we have a governor who is horrific. She is awful. She has no idea what to do because she is in an election race, and it is a tight election race. Don't let anyone tell you that Bruce Blakeman can't win the governor's race. Okay? It's a blue state, yes, but people are sick of this, and polls are showing that it is tighter than people were expecting. Okay? It's within single digits. So we got to make this go. So polling data, the poll conducted by the Business Council of New York State says that a majority of New York State voters say their electricity bills are unreasonable, and nearly 70% fear controversial green energy mandates will send prices even higher, a new poll found. Yes. So Kathy Hochul is, for a long time, whenever California came up with a crazy new Green New Deal policy, Kathy Hochul just copied it. So everything stupid that California does, Kathy Hochul copies. So ban on gas stoves. She did that for all new buildings. Ban on combustion engines in cars, new cars. I think that may start in 2030, maybe 2035. Like, she did that as well. There's a lot of different climate change laws that she is pushing, and she is, ramming through, and people are rightly afraid that it's going to cause all their energy costs to go up, which is true. And that's not only just going to cause your energy costs to go up, but it's also going to cause rolling brownouts and blackouts during peak times. So in the summer, when everyone's air conditioners are on, there's just going to be rolling brownouts and blackouts going forward because they are going to rely way too much on green, quote, green energy, alternative energy sources that they just don't have the infrastructure to facilitate. Same thing in the winter. There's going to be massive energy drains because people use the heaters. There's going to be brownouts and blackouts, and this happened in Texas. Texas relied way too much on alternative energy sources. So when they had a above average freeze a few years back of many hundreds of thousands of houses lost power because the wind turbines weren't circling and there was not enough sun for the solar panels, and they didn't have enough oil and gas and coal plants to keep everything going because they got rid of them. That's Texas. Okay, what do you think is going to happen in New York? So it's going to be much worse over here. So we have that issue as well. Even when the federal government is trying to help New York State by building pipelines to downstate where I live, the New York State hates it. They hate it. They're so angry at the Trump administration for trying to get energy to their citizens and to their constituents. So it is absolutely insane. They have climate change laws that are going through. So voters in the survey were asked, generally speaking, do you think your electricity bills are reasonable or unreasonable? 52% said their electric bills were somewhat or very unreasonable, while 44% said reasonable, and the remaining 4% of respondents had no opinions. Meanwhile, 40% of voters also said their gas bills were unreasonable. State regulators in January allowed Con Ed to hike electric bills by 10%, 10.4%, and inflate gas bills by 15.8%. I was wondering why I was paying so much more. I was paying so much more this year. Costing the average Big Apple resident an eye-watering $600 more per year by 2028. That's Big Apple. Now we also have the same issue on Long Island. New Yorkers struggling. This is Heather Mulligan, the Business Council President and CEO. New York struggling with the increasingly high cost of power, wanting clarity, fairness, and accountability when it comes to their monthly energy bills. Guess what? Bruce Blakeman literally said he's running on affordability. He is running on affordability. He's running on lowering energy prices. That is what is coming up. Your energy costs are skyrocketing. I think he said that 36 times during Hochul's term she raised energy prices. 36 times. She's only been governor for 4 years. She took over the Cuomo seat, so she has a little more than the 4-year term. But that's what's going on here. Okay? And guess what? We got the Empire Center did a study. They did a study on electricity prices. So let me actually share this with you. Let me put this on the screen. Okay. Headline: New York's electricity prices 70% above the national average. Does that sound affordable to anyone? No. We're competing with California. You never want to compete with California on costs. You want to compete with California on weather. That's it. And we don't have that. Recent data for the Energy Administration, Information Administration, and Empire Center for Public Policy show New York's average residential electricity prices at 29.99 cents per kilowatt hour. That is 70% higher than the U.S. average of 17.6 cents per kilowatt hour and 50% higher than in Pennsylvania and nearly double the price in Florida or Texas. Double. Moreover, New York's electricity prices rose 5.7% over the past month and 14.4% over the past 12 months. Over that same 12-month period, electricity prices in New York increased at twice the national rate and 4 times faster than Texas. So anyone who wants to say, oh, it's Trump, oh, it's Iran, oh, it's Trump, oh, it's Iran, it's like, well, then you would see the same growth evenly distributed amongst all the other states. But you don't see that. It's growing at a higher rate. And by the way, both Texas and Florida, you don't compare it to states with low populations. Texas and Florida both have higher populations than New York. And also Florida, Miami has as much of a concentrated population as New York. Month after month, New Yorkers are worried about high electricity prices are and how quickly they're rising, said Silenas, I apologize if I mispronounced that name, president of the Empire Center for Public Policy. Yet lawmakers continue to push climate and energy policies that will make electricity even more expensive in the years ahead. So the problem is that no one's doing anything to change this. There is literally no plan to change any of this from the Democratic side. There's a plan from the Republican side. The Republicans have plans to lower your energy costs. to make life more affordable for you. That's what Bruce Blakeman's running on. That's his plan. He put out information. Bruce Blakeman put out a 100-day plan. First 100 days. He gave it to the New York Post. He said what he's going to do. And Bruce Blakeman has the track record from being the county executive in Nassau County, which is not a tiny county. It is a very, very large county with 2.2 million people, maybe more. I think more, maybe 2.4 million people. Has a lot of people there. When he came into office, there was a planned $150 million tax raise. He canceled it. That's what he did. There was a lot of open contracts with the unions. He signed contracts with the unions, so he's not anti-union. He's not going to do what Bloomberg did and just let these contracts sit around and then cut bad deals. He cut deals with the unions, even though they didn't support him. Some of them did. I'm not going to say that they didn't support him. Some of them supported him 100%. But he cut deals with them. And did the unions love those deals? Probably not. Did the government love those deals? Probably not. But that's what a compromise is. That's what negotiation is. If one side loves the deal, then you're doing it wrong. So if the unions were super happy with whatever Bloomberg gave them, and they really want Mamdani in because he thinks they give him more, that's not a good sign. And if the government is super happy with the deals that they're striking with the unions, and the unions are miserable, that's also not a great sign, especially for a city with right to work, where there's no right to work. So you're going to have major labor shortages if you're dealing with that. But that's basically just the way that they're structuring things in New York State. So Bruce Blakeman, 100-day plan to fix New York and elected governor. This is the New York Post reporting. Lower taxes and return to law and order. Republican gubernatorial candidate Bruce Blakeman says he has a plan to make New York safer and more affordable. So in his plan, he says, Blakeman says, I'm not going to give billions of dollars to New York City because they have a budget shortfall when they're giving the money away and pissing it away on people who aren't New Yorkers. Fact check true. How many hundreds of thousands of people walk into New York and get money from New York immediately in terms of services, in terms of everything. He ripped Hochul for agreeing to give the city $1.5 billion for its now so-called $5.4 billion budget deficit. So this is the budget deficit. Hochul, this actually talks about what we mentioned before, the Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani is saying that the New York City is not giving them enough money. Hochul just gave him $1.5 billion. Blakeman called his plan the Affordability Mandate. He says it will provide historic financial relief for one of the highest tax states in the nation. It includes across the board 10% income tax cuts for people earning under $250,000, and eliminating all state income tax on the first $50,000 earned annually for single filers and $100,000 for joint filers. That seems like a nice tax cut, doesn't it? Voters, you want a tax cut? I want a tax cut. And by the way, even if you argue, even if the argument is, oh, he'll never be able to get this done, the Assembly, the won't pass it, the Senate won't pass it, he won't be able to get it done. Do you want somebody who is at least going to try and lower your taxes versus somebody who is openly stating that they are planning on raising your taxes? And don't make the claim, don't pretend like it's just they're taxing the rich. Guess how they sold the income tax to the American people in the early 1900s with the 16th Amendment. They had to pass with the Constitutional Amendment. Guess how they got that? They said it was only going to affect the rich. Do you pay income taxes? Everything starts with a tax on the rich. That's never where it ends. No taxes end on taxing the rich. They said, as they claim it is. A couple earning $250,000 will see their yearly state taxes drop from $13,000 to $6,000, while a single person making $100,000 will pay $2,000 instead of $5,000. We can't afford not to cut taxes. I mean, this is a fact. Absolutely insane. Yes, I am a big fan of Bruce Blakeman. Yes, I desperately want him to win. the governorship. I am 100% biased towards him. But even if I wasn't, even if I was just a middle-of-the-road independent voter, how do you vote to continue what we've been doing for the past 4 years? And that's in the governor's level. The past 16 years that we've been dealing with Democrats, in more than 16 years, because I think, when did Cuomo get in? I mean, each governor, they've just been worse and worse and worse. And the Senate, the Republicans lost the Senate back in 2019, in the 2018 election. 2019 is when they started a new Senate. We're talking 7 years ago. Has things gotten better? Have we been improving greatly in New York State? Or have things gotten steadily worse? Have things gotten steadily worse over the past decade? That Democrats have taken one-party control of this state. They have. There's no way you can argue otherwise. You're spending more money. It's getting harder and harder to raise a family here. They're taking more control over everything. Hochul tried to take over the local school districts, and she wasn't able to do it because the school districts fought back. We fought back against her. Do you want somebody like that again for another term? We have an opportunity here. So I think we got to take it. We got to take the opportunity. It's unaffordable now. We got to do whatever we can to get Bruce Blakeman in and make it affordable. And that's it. All right. That's going to be it for me this week. My name is Moshe Hill. This is A Hill with a View. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and share. And we'll see you back again.